Good morning and welcome to the Chancellor's opening session. You're all excited, I know, to be back for a new term. I can tell by your enthusiasm. I want to welcome you, and particularly for this meeting for me, because it's the one opportunity a year that I do get to address the district community, both faculty, administrators, classified. I guess that's not both. On issues that are important that we're working on. Before I begin, I've been asked to make an announcement, and that's that after the Faculty Association lunch, and they're going to end it a few minutes early, maybe 15 minutes early. They're going to have a little tour, walkabout tour of Irvine Valley College for those that aren't familiar with the college, and they'd like to invite you all to attend. So Paula will be telling you more about that later. We'll begin our program this morning with the Pledge of Allegiance, led by our student trustee, Heather Park.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Heather. And next on the program is a welcome from our president of the board, Nancy Padberg.
Good morning. I'm Nancy Padberg, President of the Board of Trustees, and I'd like to extend a warm welcome to everyone and also to introduce my fellow trustees who are present. When I introduce you, would you please stand? Trustee Bill J. Thank you. Vice President of the Board, T.J. Prendergast. And our newest trustee, Dr. Jim Wright. Sounds like a few people know you already. And our clerk of the board, Trustee Marcia Milchiker. And this light's a little blinding. Did I miss anybody? Okay, good. And of course, you met our student trustee, Heather Park, so we'll introduce her again. Today's Chancellor's opening session marks the start of another academic year, and it looks like we have some informative Flex Week activities going on. I know that both colleges go through extensive efforts to offer meaningful sessions. I'd like to take just a moment to comment on some items on behalf of the board. First, we are making significant strides as a district, and I commend all of you for your hard work in helping us move forward. The board is functioning effectively, and we made constructive progress on our goals last year. One area that has improved is an increase in presentations and discussion items at board meetings. Everyone has enjoyed this. These have been most informative to us, and I thank our Chancellor for his leadership in coordinating these reports. We all have also implemented regular evaluation cycles for continual feedback and improvement, and your input in these have been very helpful in helping us set our goals. I'd like to briefly introduce some of our new goals for this year. One, the board will support the Chancellor in implementing strategies to increase mutual respect and remove barriers to district-wide collaboration. All of us can contribute to achieving this goal. Two, the board will become more knowledgeable about student success and support district-wide strategies to improve completion rates. I know this is a major focus of today's session. Last month, we had a board presentation on this, and many more are already planned. 3, the board will support the Chancellor in implementing collaborative initiatives to improve student achievement and provide efficient use of resources. 4, the board will support efforts to increase transparency in decision-making district-wide. This is an ongoing effort for all of us. 5, the board will support efforts to build and maintain partnerships with educational institutions and business and industry to meet educational needs. I understand that today we will hear about one such partnership involving UCI and area high schools. We look forward to ongoing progress. Have a wonderful semester.
Okay, thank you, Nancy. Before we go on, I'd like to introduce my executive team. But the first person I'd like to introduce is my biggest supporter and sometimes critic, my wife, a dear partner, out here in the audience. Would you stand up again? Come on. Okay. Saddleback College President Todd Burnett. Irvine Valley College President Glenn Rockmore. Vice Chancellor of Business Services Deborah Fitzsimmons. Vice Chancellor of Technology and Learning Services Bob Ramucci. Vice Chancellor of Human Resources David Bouguet. And Associate Vice Chancellor of Economic Development, Randy Peebles. I'd also like to introduce our governance leaders. First is Bob Cosgrove, President, Academic Senate, Saddleback College. Kathy Schmeidler, President of Academic Senate, Irvine Valley College. Don Minio, Classified Academic Senate, Saddleback College. Dennis Gordon, Classified Academic Senate at Irvine Valley College. Paula Jacobs, Faculty Association President. Sarah Shabani, President of CSEA. Santos Garcia, President of Police Officers Association. Next, I'd like to introduce our new faculty. So would President Todd Burnett and Glenn Rockmore please join me?
Well, thank you very much, Chancellor Portner and President Burnett. Is the microphone working here? Okay. We were able, and we're very fortunate to be able to hire 9 new faculty this year. We're very proud about that. It was a wonderful process. First of all, I would like to introduce Arthur Ambrose, chemistry instructor. Rebecca Beck, English as a second language instructor. Patricia Beckman-Wells, digital media arts instructor. Joseph Jurgis, art instructor, drawing and painting. Judy Henme, counselor, DSPS. Anka Popescu, French instructor. Douglas Riles, English composition. Virginia Shank, English composition instructor. And our final new hire is Alex Sim, physics instructor. And congratulations to all of you.
Good morning, everybody. I'm very excited to introduce one of the largest classes, actually, for Saddleback College in its history. We're very excited to welcome 27 new faculty at Saddleback College. So I would say hold your applause, but I think we should give it to each person, don't you? Even though we have 27 of them. Thank you. First, I'm very excited the first person I'd like to introduce is Amara Aguilar, and she is our assistant professor for journalism. Where's Amara? Oh, there she is. Dr. Ariel Alexander, assistant professor, music instructor. Dr. Shelley Banga, assistant professor, English composition. Dr. Jack Beckham, English composition. Christina Bowles, nursing instructor. Donald Bowman, accounting instructor. Todd Bray, physics instructor. Deidre Kavasi, dance instructor. Sarah Chang, one of our new counselors. Where's Sarah? Dr. Catherine Dam, psychology instructor. Steve Daniels, English as a second language. Dr. David Dixon, physics. Mike Ingalls, another counselor. Dr. Monica Friedrich, mathematics. I'm sorry, biology. Close. Esther Gravis, nursing. Yorgos Karitas, music, instrumental. Ken Lee, horticulture. Dr. Laura Leedahl, nursing. Bill McGuire, theater arts. Boshra Nadeau, French. Orlantha Nin, our new transfer coordinator and counselor. Patrick Quigley, mathematics. Rick Reese, art instructor, printmaking and drawing. Kia Shafe, mathematics. Dr. Jeff Vogel, reading. And last and certainly not least, Lydia Wellhen, librarian. Welcome, Saddleback class of 2012. Thank you.
And now I'd like to introduce the new administrators and manager appointments. Kate Alder, Project Director, Career Technical Education, Irvine Valley College. Gary Barnack, Director, Advanced Technology, Rapid Tech, Saddleback College. James Betancourt, Night Facilities Operations Supervisor, Irvine Valley College. Caroline Dordella, Director, Research, Planning, and Accreditation, Saddleback College. Go on, Caroline. Linda Fontanella, Vice President, Student Services, Irvine Valley College. Craig Hayward, Director, Research, Planning, Accreditation, Irvine Valley College. Jeffrey Hurlbut, Assistant Director of Facilities, Irvine Valley College. Jennifer McCarty, Project Director, Community-Based Training Grant, Irvine Valley College. Kimberly McCord, Executive Director, Fiscal Services. You've got a cheering section, Kim. Christopher McDonald, Dean, Mathematics, Science, and Engineering, Saddleback College. Richard Morley, Director, College Foundation, Irvine Valley College. Don Rickner, Part-Time Director, College Foundation, Saddleback College. Don, I wonder how long it's been since you were first introduced as a new employee. 1977. Cadence Winter, Dean, Social and Behavioral Sciences, Saddleback College. Oh, here's another. David Anderson. Oh, he's on one list. Sharon Louie, Acting Director, Community Education, Office of Community Ed and Contract Services, Irvine Valley College. And who?
I thought you were done. David Anderson, is he on there? He's the dude.
Yeah, David Anderson, who moved from Irvine Valley College to Saddleback College for the Emeritus program. There's Dave back there. Yeah, thank you. Today, our presentations will focus primarily on the college completion agenda. But first, I'd like to take a few moments to give you a brief State of the District update. Over the past 2 years, our district has undergone positive transformation. We have implemented comprehensive strategic planning and resource allocation processes. We have resolved numerous accreditation issues, and we are working on creating a more collaborative and respectful culture. Last summer, we developed the district-wide strategic plan, which outlines our planning agenda for 2011 through 2014. In that plan, there were 6 goals, 14 objectives, and 77 action steps. We discussed those in detail at last year's session. Those of you that lived through that can remember. In May of this year, about 40 people from both colleges, district services, and all participatory governance groups held a one-day retreat to evaluate progress. It was a good opportunity to assess what we have accomplished and determine that what updates are needed going forward. An annual progress report is being developed, and I look forward to sharing that throughout the district. Thanks to all of you that have participated in that process. Last year, we worked hard to resolve our accreditation issues, and we were pleased when the Commission removed us from warning status earlier this year. The colleges are preparing an additional follow-up report for the commission, which is due on October 15th. The report will document continued progress in some of the areas, but we believe the major issues have been resolved with extensive planning, especially as it resorts to resource allocation. We have also dramatically increased communications, developed a SharePoint intranet site to share the work of district services and district-wide committees. We have developed new policies and regulations relating to the allocation of basic aid. And we've held workshops and college-wide forums to share progress and gain input. Our board-related issues were resolved through some policy revisions and a high level of cooperation from our Board of Trustees. I am hopeful that our district has finally moved past any unnecessary challenges to accreditation. Our district is also focusing on improving its culture of mutual respect and collaboration. This is such an important issue that is the #1 goal in our district-wide strategic plan. It is also a high priority in the goal that President Padberg mentioned in the board's goals for this year. In June, we held a retreat to focus solely on ideas for resolving this problem. More than 30 people participated from both colleges, from district services and the governance groups. Prior to the retreat, I asked district services in each of the colleges to identify their top 5 barriers to mutual respect and collaboration. The presidents are now developing a plan to address the 5 barriers, and will do so along with recommendations for resolution. This is an issue we cannot ignore. We must find a way to work together as one organization. Every moment we spend challenging each other or creating unnecessary competition is a moment we aren't spending on our students. I want to take a moment for you to take a look at your programs. You'll notice 2 students at graduation just a few months ago. 1 student from Saddleback College, 1 student from Irvine Valley College. They were friends and they attended each other's graduations. If they can respect and support one another, why can't we? Capturing this moment was special, and I believe we can learn from their example to support one another. Finally, I want to make a few comments about the state budget situation. It's again been a very tough year for community colleges. We continue to receive no growth or cost of living allowances in our SB 361 formula, which is the general operating revenues for the district. This is a small problem for us, really, in comparison to what all the other districts are facing. And if you talk to your friends in other districts, you know that they are living with very painful deep cuts, both to students and to staff who are there. Our district qualifies as a basic aid district, which means we're one of the few districts in the state with 100% of our funding coming from local property taxes and student fees. Therefore, we don't receive state apportionment. If our district depended on state aid and we were subject to state deficits, we too would have lost $12 million. We are lucky that's true, but we also need to acknowledge our board for their conservative fiscal principles and strict budget guidelines that provide us with securities during these difficult times. This takes commitment, courage, and leadership on their part. Now on to our main topic, the college completion agenda. For the better part of the past century, America has enjoyed the reputation of having the best higher education system in the world, a system that produced the highest proportion of college-educated citizens. Through a consistent focus on access for everyone, our institutions have provided millions of Americans the opportunity to attend college. Unfortunately, far too many students are attending college now, but not receiving a degree or certificate. Over the last 2 decades, the United States has gone from being the world leader in educational attainment to now number 16 among all developed nations. You can see us in the yellow column there. This decline makes our economy increasingly vulnerable to international competition. In today's knowledge-based economy, approximately 2/3 of all jobs require higher education, credential, or degree. However, we are not producing enough college graduates to meet our workforce needs. In 2009, the College Board's Commission on Access, Admissions, and Success in Higher Education issued a call for 55% of the nation's young adults to earn a degree, college degree, by 2025. Achieving this goal would put the United States on the path to once again be the world's leader. That same year, President Obama unveiled the American Graduation Initiative, pledging federal support for a national push towards completions. In 2010, the National Governors Association took the issue to the state level, and over the past few years, there have been dozens of reports by national organizations, such as the Lumina Foundation, the Gates Foundation, the College Board, and the Community College League of California, all on increasing completion. You might remember the Vision 2020 report shown here, which called for 5 million more graduates by the year 2020. 1 million of those are to be accomplished in California. This comprehensive nationwide effort is known as the College Completion Agenda. California is calling it the Student Success Initiative, but it's all about increasing completions. One of the challenges California faces is transitioning from an old, outdated master plan for higher education, which was adopted in 1960. Back then, baby boomers were reaching college age, and vast increases in enrollments were projected for the years 1960 through 1975 in order to meet the workload demands at that time. A master plan was developed that defined the roles of each educational system. UC was to educate the top 12.5% of high school graduates. CSU was to educate the top 33% of high school graduates. And community colleges were to educate any student who could benefit from instruction. And that education was supposed to be tuition-free. It is also important to note that the master plan did not emphasize completions as a priority for the community colleges. The master plan succeeded beyond all expectations, creating the largest and most distinguished system of public higher education in the nation, increasing enrollments tenfold in creating a highly educated workforce. Now the baby boomers are beginning to retire, and we need to turn our attention to educating the next generations so that they can lead our nation's industries. This is not an easy task. There are many competing priorities that have overburdened our system. There isn't enough funding, forcing many colleges to eliminate classes. Students have had a difficult time getting the classes they need to complete on time. In fact, only 25% of all California community college students graduate within 3 years. The numbers are 5 to 10% worse among Latino and African American populations, and that is alarming considering that the Latino population is the fastest growing in the United States. To give this context, let's talk about how that 25% compares to our college completion rates within 3 years. Saddleback College is 29%. Irvine Valley College is 37%. These rates and other details can be viewed on the Chronicle of Higher Education's website devoted to college completion. Even though it appears that we are slightly higher than the average, estimates show that every community college in California would need to double its number of completions to meet the college completion goal. For Saddleback College, that means going from 3,000 per year to 6,000 per year. And for Irvine Valley College, that means going from 1,800 completions a year to 3,600. The Orange County Register recently reported or published completion rates for all community colleges in Orange County. The topic is getting lots of attention, and the state's legislature and Board of Governors are now proposing system-wide reforms to support increased completions. Let's talk about the legislative efforts that are underway to deal with this change. Senate Bill 1143 in 2010 required the Board of Governors to adopt a plan for improving student success and completion. The Board of Governors called on higher education leadership, and the community college system established the Student Success Task Force. After an intensive year-long process, which included best practices tour, legislative hearings, community forums, and one was held at Saddleback College, if you recall, the task force produced the final report with recommendations, and these were unanimously approved by the State Board of Governors. The U.S. Department of Education voiced strong support because the changes proposed align with the national completion goals. This year, Senate Bill 1456, the Student Success Act of 2012, was sponsored by Senator Lowenthal to enact a system-wide change. That legislation is currently in the Assembly after easily passing in the Senate. The purpose of the Student Success Act is to focus on aspects of student success and access that will foster improved completions. That is a change from the original master plan, but the system can no longer afford to be all things to all people. Priority will be given to students with an educational plan to earn a degree, a career technical certificate for transfer preparation, or career advancement. It's still too early to tell what the specific outcomes will be from 1456 or how they will be phased in. It is also still unclear what mandates will be funded. It is clear that this freight train is on the way, and it will change business as we have known system-wide. Some of the highlights of SB 1456 include ensuring that all community college students receive orientation, assessment, and educational planning services at the beginning of their educational journey. Targeting campus resources to support innovative models for delivering critical student support services. Incentivizing student progress by aligning BOG waiver fee requirements with academic progress standards. Increasing transparency and help close the achievement gap by requiring campuses receiving student success funds to post a scoreboard measuring their progress by ethnicity, age, gender, and socioeconomic status. Community colleges are the gateway to opportunity for the vast majority of California students. Unfortunately, California community college system's outstanding track record of providing open access, large numbers of students will never make it across the finish line. We must be willing to embrace bold reforms in order to significantly improve college completion rates and meet future workforce demands. This will be the single most important priority that we face in our careers. Our district's highly skilled workforce and financial stability provide us with a unique opportunity to be the leader in the state. I hope that we will join together and work collaboratively and respectfully to embrace these changes and focus on our students. A new cause can and should unite us. I've asked the colleges to provide us with an overview of the Student Success Task Force recommendations, and we have a few other presenters here today who will illustrate how we can begin working on increasing completions. I hope I've provided some history and context to this important challenge and that is going to shape the future of our nation. The presentations following me will be first, Dr. Kevin O'Connor, Dean, Saddleback College, Dr. Kathy Worley, Dean at Irvine Valley College, Professor Brenda Boron, English professor at Irvine Valley College, Dr. Jonathan Alexander, campus writing director at University of California at Irvine, and Dr. Bob Ramucci, Vice Chancellor of Technology and Learning Services for the district.
Good morning. Earlier in the program, new colleagues were introduced, and as the written program indicates, they bring with them specific skills, expertise, and talent. And it's certainly the case during this week and the opening of this fall semester, we all go back to our respective roles and become very focused. And that's what's needed and expected and appreciated. But it's also important for us to find ways that we have a common purpose and focus. And so the 8 recommendations that I and my colleague Kathy Worley are going to quickly go through are one framework for bringing us together, opportunities for us to remind ourselves how we can support one another and certainly our students on this important completion agenda. The first of the 8 recommendations is, pardon me, I scrolled too far forward. Increase college and career readiness. Collaborate with K through 12 to jointly develop common standards for college and career readiness. Recommendation 2, strengthen support for entering students. Develop and implement common centralized diagnostic assessments. Require students to participate in diagnostic assessment, orientation, and the development of an education plan. Develop and use technology applications to better guide students in educational processes. Require students showing a lack of college readiness to participate in support resources. And require students to declare a program of study early in their academic careers. Notice how many times the word require appears in that set. Recommendation number 3, incentivize successful student behaviors. Adopt system-wide enrollment priorities reflecting the core mission of community colleges. Require students receiving Board of Governors fee waivers to meet various conditions and requirements. Provide students the opportunity to consider attending full-time, and require students to begin addressing basic skills deficiencies in their first year. Certainly, again, the word require appears, and showing the transition from the community college experience being very open, invitational, and elective to setting a bar and creating clear expectations and requirements for our students. And recommendation number 4, align course offerings to meet student needs. Give highest priority for courses advancing student academic progress. Kathy?
Okay, recommendation 5 is to improve the education of basic skills students, starting with supporting the development of alternative basic skills curriculum and developing a comprehensive strategy for addressing basic skills education in California. Recommendation 6 is to revitalize and re-envision professional development, creating a continuum of mandatory professional development opportunities and direct professional development resources toward improving basic skills instruction and support services. Recommendation 7 is to enable efficient statewide leadership and increase coordination among colleges. Directed at the Chancellor's office, This recommendation would have us develop and support strong community college system office, set local student success goals consistent with statewide goals, implement a student success scorecard, and develop and support longitudinal student record system. And last, recommendation 8 would have us align resources with student success recommendations. Again, directed at the state level, this is something that we can do as a district. Included in these recommendations are to encourage categorical program streamlining and cooperation, invest in the new student support initiative, and encourage innovation and flexibility in the delivery of basic skills instruction. And with that, we're going to have Brenda Boren come up with Dr. John Alexander from UC Irvine, and they're going to talk about one of the things that has actually been done over the last several years, specifically to address the recommendation number 1.
That is.
Good morning. We're here to talk about articulation between the high schools, community colleges, and UCI. As Kevin said, the Student Success Task Force Initiative calls for us to collaborate with area high schools, departments of education, and our post-secondary partners to define and communicate to students standards for post-secondary success. We, fortunately, have been working on this prior to this recommendation. In fall of 2009, we began to work with high schools in Tustin and in Irvine to conduct partnerships. And this collaboration began because we got information from the high schools, teachers, and the administration that their students were not placing well into our Writing 1 class, and we knew that as well. But they wanted to know what we could do to work better so that their students would be placed into Writing 1 and could complete their sequence more quickly. This observation that was rather anecdotal was confirmed by the Student Success Task Force when they noted in their report that 70 to 90% of entering students in the community colleges come to us underprepared for English, math, or both. And at IVC in English, from the period from June 2009 to July 2012, this underpreparation rate in English was 74%.
At the University of California at Irvine, we began noting in 2009 some significant shifts in where our students were coming from and in what courses they were being placed. I very much appreciated Gary's commentary about the California Master Plan, which has allowed the community colleges, the Cal States, and the University of California to address, in some ways, rather distinct populations, but also create paths of articulation and transfer. However, the economic crisis of 2008 began significantly shifting where students were going to receive higher education. And we began immediately feeling those effects at the University of California. We noted, for instance, that at least 3 of our schools, the School of Humanities, the School of Social Sciences, and the School of Social Ecology, more and more students were coming to us from the community colleges as opposed to our coming to us through our first and second year programs. And in fact, as I said, for 2 years running, we had a higher number of transfer students than first-year students in those 3 schools. Faculty began noticing that students were differently prepared. And I say differently because sometimes, and frequently, students were extraordinarily well prepared. But unfortunately, just as often, faculty were perceiving that the students were not as equally or as well prepared as our first and second-year students. We initiated an elaborate and I think ambitious form of assessment to begin to figure out how students were prepared, particularly as they moved from the sophomore into the junior year. And indeed, we discovered that there were at times statistically significant differences in preparation amongst our community college transfer students. We could not continuously or consistently replicate that. The results largely depended upon where students were coming from and in what majors they were going into, but there were at times statistically significant differences in that course preparation. Knowing that people sometimes act more on feeling than anything else, and knowing that faculty were feeling that their students definitely were differently prepared, our academic senate began considering some rather draconian alternatives, including disarticulation of coursework with community colleges and segregating students into separate courses if they were transfer students. I decided as campus writing director that this was potentially inappropriate, given the data that we were looking at, and also probably the least set of politically appropriate and the least kind set of options that we could use in addressing what we were beginning to see in terms of course preparation and skills preparation. So I called to campus local community college leaders in writing, faculty and administrators to start talking about the data that we were seeing, and to talk about it both in terms of the anecdotal data, the sense perception that faculty were having at the time, but also some of the actual data that we were looking at and how we could show that there were at times differences in preparation that were impacting student success and time to degree completion. This is a way in which I am grateful in some ways to the economic crisis, because it actually forced us to reach out and get in contact with our community college partners. And the relationships that we've developed in particular with IVC and with Saddleback have been especially strong in helping to think through how can we better prepare students for success once they transfer to UCI. And we're going to talk a little bit about how that works and what some of the specific things that we've done to enable that successful transition.
According to the frameworks, a major part of the problem was a disalignment of curriculum, standards, and assessment between the high schools and post-secondary institutions. And according to a report that Kate Clark chaired, it was a joint publication of the academic senates of the California State University, the University of California, and the California Community Colleges. Students do very well on what they're taught in high schools. Traditionally, in most high school English classes, the focus has been in writing on personal narrative and summary. And on those skills, students appeared to do very, very well. However, a problem arose because as you know, and all of you know, whether you teach English writing or writing in your own disciplines, when students come to post-secondary institutions, the expectation is that they will be able to do analysis and synthesis. Kind of a parallel disconnect occurs with reading. In high schools, the reading focus is on primarily literature, whereas at post-secondary institutions, the focus is on nonfiction. And so that's why the task force called for us to collaborate and to define standards and to come up with some way to have common expectations so that students wouldn't be so adversely interrupted when they transitioned to post-secondary education.
This is really hard to see.
There's a light here,
wow.
too.
So what we have attempted to do is kind of get ourselves up to speed with some of the best thinking in the nation about how to prepare students as they move not just from K-12 system into the community colleges, but the community colleges into the Cal State or into the UC system or into private universities. And drawing on a number of different documents, such as the frameworks document that Brenda was mentioning, but also the California Joint Academic Senate Framework document, Academic Literacy. We've attempted to kind of isolate and identify some of the key characteristics that students need to focus on and that we need to help students focus on to help them be better prepared to transition from one learning environment to another.
Academic literacy is the document I was referring to that was a joint publication of the academic sentence. And so in that publication, they came up with criteria and expectations for entering students. And with those criteria and expectations, they jointly agreed that these would be the expectations for students entering post-secondary education in California public colleges, whether it was in the university system, the Cal State system, or the community college system.
The framework for post-secondary writing document is a recent document. It came out just within the past year, and it was developed collaboratively by the Council of Writing Program Administrators, the National Council of Teachers of English, and the National Writing Project to identify what nationally are the skill sets that students not only need to have when they move into a two-year or four-year college, but what are the skill sets that the two-year and four-year colleges need to focus on in the teaching of writing. And there are a number of important elements of this that we're going to get to in a moment. We are fortunate that in many ways those elements, those standards and requirements are parallel to those that are now being developed and implemented in the Common Core standards for language arts K through 12. So there's increasing overlap amongst these different documents and increasing alignment in how we are thinking about the basic skills and the important sorts of skills and characteristics of college-level learning and writing that we want our students to have.
And the Common Core framework for language arts was a collaborative of high school teachers, administrators, and also experts in the field from across the country. And it's been adopted by, I think, 41 states. And it will come into effect in California in terms of both curriculum and assessment in 2014.
So what are some of the common elements amongst these three different documents? Very quickly, all of them call for rigorous K through 12 educational programs to prepare students for college and career, and all call for writing to be taught in all high school classes, not just in high school English classes. And this is a really significant change. They also all call for extensive reading and analysis of nonfiction texts. And this is a huge change for teachers in language arts who have normally been teaching fiction or creative texts. So the emphasis on nonfiction texts, looking at sustained arguments, looking at research reports. This is really a crucial but much needed change. All call for students to move beyond the what to the why. So students are asked not just to report, but also to begin the complex tasks of analyzing and synthesizing information. They all also emphasize the importance of habits of mind. What are the kinds of qualities or characteristics of good learning? In short, the frameworks call for a focus on the development of college and career-appropriate skills, but also appropriate attitudes, approaches, and dispositions. And this is a really significant shift and reflects some of the most current thinking in educational psychology about what it takes to really be an inquisitive, open learner in today's society. Focus on skills.
So the focus on skills, it just means skills are what we learn. One part of the framework requirement. But the second focus is on habits of mind, how we learn. And according to Carol Booth Olson, their frameworks call for some common skills.
Such as the ability to read and analyze complex texts independently, so you understand what these texts mean, but also the ability to critically analyze the ideas or arguments presented in texts. In other words, we don't necessarily need to believe everything that we read just because it's on the internet. The ability to write for multiple purposes, including interpretation, synthesis, response, critique, and analysis. This is a richer understanding of writing and how we communicate. It's a much more audience-driven. So much of writing and literacy instruction over the last 2 decades has focused just on writing to particular test situations, writing short paragraphs to fulfill either an AP or some other standardized test. This is a significant shift away from that sort of short burst of writing to much more sustained kinds of reading and writing practices that actually ask students to think critically. Skill 4, the ability to write arguments in support of claims and to analyze substantive topics and to think about texts using valid reasoning and evidence.
The second focus is on habits of mind. And habits of mind just refers to our attitudes, our approaches, our dispositions. And these are the things, the kind of life skills that will help us be successful not only in college, but also in our careers and other areas of our lives.
Some of these habits of mind include, shockingly, curiosity. We have, as educators, have come to realize that so many of our educational systems have actually tried to drive out curiosity, to train students instead just to be compliant. And we need to understand that learning, interpreting, analyzing, thinking critically require that we have a curious mind about the world around us and the people in it, which leads also to an openness, a willingness to consider new ways of being and thinking in the world, and then also to engage that world, to have a sense of investment and involvement in how we learn.
I'm sorry, we're giving Elena a hard time in the audience here. Number 4 is creativity, and that's the ability to use novel approaches. I should read it here. I know what that is. Use novel approaches for generating and implementing ideas. Number 5 is persistence, and we all know that's just the ability to stick with something when it's getting hard. Number 6, responsibility, is to take responsibility for our actions and to realize that the actions we take do have consequences. Number 7 is flexibility, the ability to shift gears, to look at other people's points of view, to see things more than one way. And number 8 is metacognition, and that may be a word you aren't familiar with, but it simply refers to the ability to think about your thinking, to analyze what you're doing as you think, and to apply those kinds of skills to not only your personal life, but also to your interactions with your culture and your world.
Keeping in mind these skill sets and that they often are requiring that we really rethink how we teach students, and also keeping in mind that these are skill sets that are not just to be deployed within writing or composition courses, but really to be thought about in any case in which we ask students to read and to write. We want to talk a little bit now about what are the concrete things that we have done in our partnership between the UC and the local community colleges to help better prepare students for the transition from the 2-year to 4-year colleges. I have been very fortunate, as I said, to work with colleagues both at IBC and at Saddleback in the creation of a number of programs that have brought faculty together to talk about the students that we are most invested in, the students that we want to see succeed, and how do we get those students to move successfully from 2-year to 4-year college experiences. These programs have included very hands-on sessions in which we get together and look at student writing, in which we analyze what's happening in student writing and talk about what are the kinds of qualities or characteristics that we see and that we want to see, and then how can we develop curricula that will prompt students to develop those qualities and characteristics of successful writing at the collegiate level. I think some of those sessions, at least the ones that I have most personally benefited from, and I think have been really powerful for our community college colleagues, have been those sessions in which we look at junior and senior level writing at UCI and read it together and norm it. And norming is not Norman, our colleague Norman, but norming is a process in which we gather together, look at common writing, and then try to figure out, okay, is this a good piece of writing or is this a bad piece of writing? And if it's a good piece of writing, how do we all know it's a good piece of writing? And if it's not a good piece, how do we know it's not good? Just coming up with that common vocabulary, a common way of talking about what makes for a good piece of writing versus what makes for a not so good piece of writing, I think goes a very long way to helping us understand how students are learning to write and how we can talk better with our students, not just with each other, but with our students about the kinds of writing skills we want them to develop. Perhaps most practically, sharing student writing, successful and unsuccessful student writing across our colleges and universities allows our community college partners to see the kinds of writing challenges that students are facing once they get to the UCs. What are they being asked to do? How are they successfully doing it? And how are they perhaps not so successfully doing it? So basically, just sharing our student work and sharing curricular innovations and ideas, we hope will help tighten the gap between students' experiences in the community college and once they come to the UC.
And just to go back to high school students coming either from area high schools to our community colleges or to our colleges and universities, we have had at IVC a series of workshops that started with workshops we did, as I said, in 2009, and they have focused on primarily schools in Tustin and Irvine, but we've also had participants from El Toro, from Saddleback Unified. And in those workshops, we've done similar things. We've tried to show participants, here are examples of student work. Here's our writing assessment placement test. Let's score these papers. Let's see how your scores match our scores. It's not too surprising to me that our scores are very, very similar, but what is surprising to me is that students are not doing that well on our placement test. Only 25% or 26% of students actually place into our transfer level class. And as a result of that, our area high schools, especially, I'm going to mention Irvine Unified because they actually released 30 of their teachers to come to a workshop in May of 2011 to work with us all day long on aligning our curriculum and expectations and standards. It's a little bit difficult for us to work with high schools because they have less flexibility in terms of time, and it's only from the devotion and the passion that those teachers have that we've been able to establish workshops, because they come to us after a full day of teaching, generally at 4 o'clock, and they stay till 7 o'clock. And we're very grateful for their expertise, for their commitment, and for their ability to deal with very large numbers of students as they teach writing.
As we wrap up, it's probably important to keep in mind that this is a very simple strategy that any of us can use, not just in writing and composition, but that any of us can use in any discipline. Get together with our colleagues, both near in our colleges, but also far in neighboring colleges and across our segments to talk about our common goals for student learning. And so Brenda and I would urge that all of you, regardless of your discipline, think about holding regular meetings with your colleagues, both in your immediate learning situation and teaching situation, but also with neighboring colleges. We at UCI are very open to these kinds of meetings. In fact, we believe that it is absolutely necessary at this point that we begin talking across segments to ensure student success. The economic crisis is changing what our student bodies look like. They're changing the kinds of students that we are getting. They're changing, the economic crisis has changed the preparation that those students are receiving. So we absolutely need to meet, to talk across our segments to better understand those student bodies, but then also to help each other better prepare students for success in higher education. There are various resources that we can make available to you to talk about not only the strategies that we have implemented, but some nationally recognized strategies for helping maintain and ensure student success. And we would be happy to provide those to you. Feel free to email us. Both of us are very easy to find on the internet. And we appreciate your attention.
And I would just like to say that it's only because of the faculties at our community colleges, our high schools, I'm going to say particularly Saddleback and Irvine Valley, that this presentation is possible, and it reflects the hard work of all those folks, plus people at the Orange County Department of Education who were gracious to come give us a workshop last fall on the Common Core, and of our colleagues at UCI in the Department of English, ESL, which is Academic English at UCI, and the Department of Education. And we'd like to thank you very much.
How can we use technology to help our students succeed? Well, in two very broad ways. You can either reduce or remove the things that keep them from succeeding, or you can add things which will help them succeed. Remember when, if you're about my age, remember when we went to school, the registration in the field house, the punch cards, contrast that to today's students' experience. They applied for college using CCC Apply, an online system. They go on my site and they can register online. They're putting their courses in their class shopping cart. They can buy their books. They can get orientations online. They can book or in some cases receive their counseling online. And it doesn't stop there. When they first come on campus, you'll see them navigating around campus using the wireless map on their cell phones and our mobile app. It'll tell you where you're standing and tell you where you're trying to go. So you see them doing that. If they're not sitting down in a planner with their laptop on the Wi-Fi, or increasingly their tablet, or even their smartphone on the Wi-Fi. And they're using our mobile apps. We've had over 12,000 downloads of those. That's the sanding down friction points. We've also tried to come up with new systems that will help our students succeed. Systems like My Academic Plan. It's currently the only academic planning tool that is linked with Project Assist, the articulation database from all the CSUs and the UCs. Our Sherpa system, which is getting quite a lot of national attention from the Chronicle of Higher Education, EDUCAUSE, and many other entities. Sherpa allows us to personalize communication for each student and even personalize the way that the student wants to receive the communication. It can be as automated phone calls, emails, on our web portal, as SMS text messages, and coming this fall, a mobile version of MySite for phones. Speaking of MySite, we first came up with it about a dozen years ago. We revamped it about 4 years ago, and we're in the middle of revamping it again. We have a beta of MySite that's been completely reorganized according to the information we've got from students on our design team. It's going to include things like a calendar, personalized to-do lists, a news feed that is personalized just to that student. So we're trying to address both sides of that coin. Now, moving over to the completion agenda, or specifically the Student Success Task Force, why are they saying that technology is going to be an important part of the completion agenda? Well, it's not simply for the glitz of computing. Computers are not a panacea. A couple of reasons. One is that these are digital natives. This is the water they swim in, these digital systems. They're used to using Facebook and Twitter and many other digital systems, and they're increasingly coming to expect those kinds of systems. They're wondering why the systems that permeate every aspect of their life seem to stop at the schoolhouse door, and we run the risk of appearing increasingly anachronistic. Another reason is simply because they're asking us to double our outcomes. Are they going to double our money? Dream on, right? In fact, they've been cutting our money twice a year for the past 3 years. So how are you going to do more with less? Well, out in the world, computer technology has managed to find a great number of efficiencies, and that's another reason why the report is calling for the use of technology. The biggest use I can find for technology in the Student Success Task Force report is it's calling for the creation of a series of what they're calling modules. Now, you're already familiar with this because CCC Apply is one of these modules. The other module, there's another one that they're working on right now for e-transcripts. In addition, they plan to create additional statewide modules available to all the California community colleges for bog waivers, for library electronic resources in the catalog, for transfer advisement, even for textbook purchasing, and they're going to follow us out of college with this. They want to create a module for job placement as well. So the single biggest technological area I see in the SSTF report has to do with the creation of these modules. Now, I think we are fortunate here. I was talking with someone last week, and I asked them when they brought out their college portal. And they said, portal? They don't have one. I was rather shocked, actually, because we came up with my site. It was one of the first student portals about a dozen years ago. But portals are very, very common. And here we already have one. Well, they're also talking about academic planning tools. They want every single student to have an academic plan. And I think we have created here together one of the preeminent academic planning tools that is available. Data warehouses. It used to be that your data was scattered all around your campus. A recent movement has brought all that data together. We were, again, one of the first California community colleges to come up with, ours is called Inform. It is a data warehouse that brings all these sources of data together. They're calling for that. We already have that as well. The Sherpa system. I was reading this quote, and I thought, wow, it sounds almost like they're talking about Sherpa. Not only personalizing information for students, we can push events into their calendar, we can push events into their to-do list and so forth. Not only that, but in getting the information that last mile out to the students, because it doesn't do you any good to have a great tool and have students not use it. So we can get that last mile through text messaging, through emails, through phone calls, through to-do lists, through calendar entries, in a lot of other ways. Now, looking over this, I come to the conclusion that I think that we are a leader in this in the state. We built all these systems together. Everything we've ever built here was built with very inclusive project teams, people from both colleges, staff, faculty, administrators, and always students. They're paid members of our design teams. Because of that, I think that we are ahead of many of the community colleges in the state as we head towards this completion agenda. And it's our intent to serve as a leader. So I'd like to ask for your help. I think as we build the project teams for the upcoming year, you can not only be making things better for our 43,000 students, but ultimately for the 2.6 million students across this entire system. One last thing. When I'm reading through the SSTF report, it can be a little bit confusing. You know, there's 8 chapters, there's 21 recommendations. I like to simplify things, so I thought I would just share the way that I conceptualize this report. How are we going to double completions? Well, essentially just 3 ways: centralization, standardization, and automation. First, centralization. They're calling for the creation of a much stronger system office, somewhat akin to the CSU office. Second is they want one common assessment test, and they want that test shared in one common database that is statewide. We already talked about those student support modules that they're creating. The data warehouses, they don't want just colleges to have them. They want to create statewide databases that will include things like those assessment tests, which frankly our current assessments don't work as well as we would like. And we would like to be able to have one common shared way that we can make those better. That's also going to include a longitudinal record system. It's very ambitious that hopefully will track people out into the workforce so we can see the outcomes of what we're doing. Second is standardization. Not only, standardization of 2 different kinds. The first one is policy. So for they're looking for mandatory participation. There's an old saying that's very common in the California community colleges: students don't do optional. And if that's the case, then if we know it's going to help them succeed, next, the declare program of study by the end of the 3rd term. You can still have time to find yourself, but students that are in programs of study tend to have better outcomes. They're going to incentivize enrollment priority. Do the right things, you can increase yours. Do the wrong things, and you can decrease that. And that goes for the students with BOG waivers as well. My wife is a psychology professor at a community college, and she's always been puzzled by the fact is that many of the students that come in don't have university or college level reading or writing skills, yet they're allowed to take her psychology class. Why don't we, if we know that you're having problems with reading and writing, that's going to affect your entire student career, isn't it? So let's address those problems near the beginning of your tenure at school. The last thing is Brenda and Jonathan so ably demonstrated there's a great deal of work going on now. Kevin O'Connor is also doing this work at Saddleback to help align. We found to our horror that there are many places where the K-12 system and the college system are misaligned. But we're also going to standardize systems. We mentioned the Common Assessment Test, but we also want to use, for example, the data that comes out of the academic planning. If we know if every student has an academic plan, we know what that plan is, we know what they're planning to take next semester so that they'll stay on track with that plan, well, shouldn't that help us guide what we offer next semester? They're going to change some of the data systems, both the one for the entire college. You're familiar with the ARC report. It's going to be reformulated into the college trending scorecard. In addition, for each and every student in the state, it is the intent to create a student success scorecard for every single student so they can tell how they're on track or not on track with their educations. Lastly, automation. Now, this isn't taking human beings out of the system. This is just being cognizant that our resources are very scarce. Counseling, for example, advising, very scarce, very precious resources. We want to make sure that those are used well. Many times you can have computers do low-level work with the student to prepare them for a higher human-level discussion with that advisor, with that professor. And the last thing I'm excited about this is our predictive analytics effort. This is going to be a new one this year. We're very close to announcing a partnership with folks from the Center for Machine Learning and Intelligent Systems at UCI. And we hope to work with them as well as with national leaders to come up with better ways of finding out which students are going to be in trouble, which students are headed for not completing, and being able to intervene before they leave us. Any questions? If not, thanks.
Probably been wondering what this big grand piano is sitting here in the shadows. Maybe you thought the performer got ill. Maybe you thought I was trying to build suspense. Maybe you thought I was trying to make her nervous by waiting longer. No, I forgot. So with that, I'd like to introduce Irvine Valley College piano student major Ha Young Kim, who will perform Toccata in E-flat minor by Aram Khachaturian. worth the wait, wasn't it? Thank you, Ha Young, for that beautiful performance, and also thank you to Irvine Valley College professor Susan Betcher for coordinating it on our program. I think next we're going to be giving faculty service pins. So if the board members and Todd and Glenn would come up.
Good morning. For Kevin and Kathy, there does come a time when you have to make an admission that you need some help. We're going to go through our faculty service pins, and we have our board of trustees, and we'd like to invite you to come and enter the stage on this left-hand side, my left-hand side and your right-hand side, and come across here. Our board of trustees would like to greet you for your years of service as well. So if you can come across this way over here, and then over here, we'll present your pins at the end. So with that being said, I'm going to start with those people that have served the district for 5 years and receiving their pin. First of all, from Saddleback College, Michael Long. And Anthony Teng. And for those that have served us for 10 years. Okay, Janet Bagwell from Saddleback College. Morgan Barrows from Saddleback College. Jennifer Higginson from Saddleback College. Steve Corper from Saddleback College. Kaylin Morris from Saddleback College. Charlie Myers from Saddleback College. Joey Sellers from Saddleback College. And then from Irvine Valley, Edwin Tiongson. Congratulations. 15 years of service, starting with George Brogan, Irvine Valley College. David Fretz from Irvine Valley College. Margot Lovett from Saddleback College. Martha Stuffler from Irvine Valley College. Well, apparently 15 years is kind of a cutting off point for people that... And then Kiana Tibidzaba from Irvine Valley College. "20 years of service. Lisa Alvarez from Irvine Valley College. Hey, George. How you doing? David Fretz from Irvine Valley College. Margot Lovett from Saddleback College. I guess I need to change my prescription on my glasses. Pam Barr from Saddleback College. Anna Marie Kobos from Saddleback College. And Susan Fessler from Irvine Valley College. "25 years of service." We have one person that's asked to have their name mentioned as Patricia Levin from Saddleback College. And 30 years of service, Mr. Lee Haggerty, Saddleback College. Yeah, 35 years of service. That's a long time. Starting at Saddleback College, Carol Bander, 35 years. Tom Carroll won't be with us, but let's give him a round of applause anyway from Saddleback College. Jan Duquette from Saddleback College. Margaret Wong from Saddleback College. Larry Jones, Saddleback College. Margaret? Congratulations. Sharon McMillan from Saddleback College. Margaret? And Mike Merrifield, Saddleback College. Jeannie Smith from Saddleback College. Oh, Jean Smith. And Steve Sorter from Saddleback College. Hey, Mike. Congratulations. Thank you very much. Steve? Thank you. These represent several hundred years of service, so thank you all very much.
I want to thank all of our presenters today for highlighting the various aspects of college completion. I know it's a lot of material to cover, but I hope it's provided you some perspective and highlights of the importance of what we're doing. Thank you to Irvine Valley College for hosting us in this beautiful Performing Arts Center. and also to the student for her wonderful performance. Finally, I want to thank, I ought to thank my staff, who has worked so hard in planning this event. It takes a lot of effort. And then finally, thanks to all of you for your continued invaluable contributions that make this district a wonderful place to work. Thank you.